So, how do we share the results of this analysis? You may be asking yourself. You already learned how to publish online, but what if you just wanted to make a printable map for whoever asked you the question? So let's say the National Park Service asked you to come up with this layer of where they could put new campsites. You've run the analysis now. You just need to show them where they can do it. And they want a piece of paper with a map on it because they are not good with technology and they don't own a computer. I don't know who doesn't own a computer, but whoever they are, they don't. So you need to make them a nice printed map. So to do that, we've got our data here, but to make it look presentable, we need to make a layout. So on our top row here, we can go to the Insert tab. And here we want to make a new layout. And we'll make it letter sized because we're going to print it out on a piece of paper for them. So this is our layout. And you can see we've got our map tab still. So along the top here, it says layout and map. If we click map, all of our data is still there, still waiting for us. It still loves us. But now we've got this layout tab. This is a paper map, but it's pretty boring because it just looks like a piece of paper. So now we can insert along the top a map frame. So our map frame, if we open this, we want this from the map. And you can see my cursor changed from an arrow to a crosshair. This is where you can draw in a map frame. Ooh. And we want to turn our vegetation back on and our lakes back on and our streams back. Oh, not our lakes. We want our water bodies because the lakes are wrong. And we're only focused on this area. So once again, in our table of contents, and you can see now we're in our map frame within our layout in our table of contents, but we can right click again in our Bear Lake NLCD poly and zoom to layer, and it will take us right to where we're looking. Okay. So we've got that. Maybe we don't want these to be bright pink because, yeah, that isn't very conducive to where people might be looking. So we are going to change the color to, let's say, well, let's keep it pink. Why not? And a pink border. And our appearance, we're going to make, we're going to make it somewhat see-through. Great. So you should have something that looks kind of like this. Yes, does anyone not have something that looks similar to this at this point? Okay. So now we've got a picture, but we don't know what this picture means. So we need to add some map accoutrement to it. So again, from our Insert tab on the top, we can add things like a north arrow. See these map surrounds? We can add a north arrow. And let's just stick with something simple, a simple north arrow. And we'll just click here. That's actually not a bad size. And we'll go back to insert, and we will insert a scale bar. How about just a single division scale bar right here? But you'll see it has 0.6 miles here. That's kind of a weird distance, right? So we can either go smaller. If you look at this, my cursor has the resize things. If we shorten that bar, we can shorten it to 1/2 mile. That's a nice rounder number. What else do we need here? I still don't know what any of this means. Anyone? Bueller? Right, exactly. Haha, yes, a legend. So again, from the Insert tab, Map Surrounds, you can click a legend. And we'll put a legend. Again, you can see my cursor changes to a crosshair. We can drop a legend right here. And you can see that's really messy. And we don't need all of that, right? So in our table of contents here, we can expand this legend and we can turn things off if we don't want them. So we don't need a dem, we don't need a slope, we don't need a slope reclass, we don't need the boundary because it's not even in our map. We don't need lakes. We don't need roads. We don't need the tundra trails. We don't need the campsites XY2. We don't need the trail stream crossings. We don't really even need the water bodies other than, no, we don't really need the water bodies, right? Because blue is water. We'll take those out. Okay, so we've got our vegetation and our streams, and we can put our streams above our vegetation so that it comes up here. If you want to move things around in your legend, you can see you can click and drag. Likewise, if you want to rename things, you just rename them in here. So camp spots, I can rename this layer to prospective backwoods camping. And if you rename it by clicking on it in the table of contents and then clicking on it again, it will rename it in the legend. So I will do the same thing with this. I will just name this trails. And we're going to get rid of the streams as well. There's one other thing we want to do, and that is get rid of the definition query on our vegetation polygon. So we will right click on our Bear Lake vegetation poly, properties, in the definition query, click the little red X. Yes, we do want to delete it. Click OK. And now we can see all of our vegetation. How could you? That is a great question. So you can see the bounding box of my map frame is outside of where we're looking at a little bit. There are a few ways to go about changing this. The easiest would be to select, and you can see my cursor is a black arrow with a little white rectangle. That means I am selecting map elements. I can click on my map frame. You can see it selected the map frame, and if I were to drag this around, it drags the map frame around. I can right click on it and click activate. So now, if I were to try to click and drag it around, it pans around in my map. And now I can zoom in, zoom out. I'm going to click down here. This is my scale. I'm going to type in 15,000 because that should get me just where I want to be. You can see it does. I'm just within that. So I have activated this map frame and I have filled it up. When I no longer need this to be active, I can come up here and I can close my activated map frame. So in the upper right, the red box, close activated map frame. And you can see my cursor goes back to my select map elements. And you can see here, there's still on each side a little bit of negative space. So I'm actually going to fudge this by resizing the map frame a little smaller. But Josh, now this isn't centered. So over here, you can see format map frame in the right. I have these options, display, and placement. If I click on the placement, and I click in the middle here, this is where I can position things. What is half of 8.5? Right, it's 4.25. I can center it that way. I can also, if I don't want to do that, I can right click on that. Say I accidentally move it over here. I can right click on it and choose this align. And at the bottom, I can select align to page. So when I go back in and I right click on it again and go to align, I can align center. That does the same thing. So now I've got my map frame where I want it. I've got, well, I need to resize my scale bar now because I zoomed in so I can make it bigger. Got scale bar, I've got a north arrow. I've got a still fairly ugly legend. I don't like seeing this Bear Lake NLCD poly. So what I'm going to do is, I want this in 2 columns so that it'll better fit. And I want to get rid of this Bear Lake NLCD poly. So we want to view legend items. We don't need group names. We don't need layer names. So now you can see that still looks kind of yucky. So I want to move these perspective things and the trails down to the other side. And oh boy, still not where I want it. But you know what? That's okay. We've also got a null here that we can get rid of at some point. But for right now, what else does our map need? Anybody? What's the text blocking the bottom of the map frame? This text right in here is called it's the source data for the imagery we're using. And we can get rid of that. We'll get rid of that right now. Okay, so insert, up at the top, insert. We have these things called different text things. We've got dynamic text. So if we insert dynamic text and we scroll down to, where did it go? Service layer credits. So the imagery we're using is called a service layer. And service layer credits is the source data for that service layer. And you'll notice when I add that to my map or to my caller, it disappears from the bottom of the map. Heyo. So we can find a place to put this, and maybe we're going to make the text symbol a little smaller so that it's less apparent. So the appearance will be, let's say, 8 point. And to get to this, hey, we will select it. See, it's got text. We've got our text here. And I will select text symbol within my text window. And then we've got our properties. I will expand appearance. That is where I get to my size. What else should we have on a map? A title. Oh, beautiful. I was hoping someone would say that. Insert. Text. We're going to add this. We can also come to where's my insert? We could add it as a rectangle, but I am just going to add text as a single line. I will click somewhere. What should our title be called? So you can click anywhere. It will bring up this same text format. Backwoods camping in, we'll just call it backwoods camping. But that's pretty small, this tiny little box, this tiny little thing. So once again, you go into text symbol, go into appearance, we'll say 14 point, maybe. That's still pretty small. We'll say 24 point, maybe. Backwoods camping. It's a little big. 21. There we go. And we can add a subtitle later if we want. Where are we going to put our title? Oh boy, we're getting kind of crowded, huh? We can move this into the map. Heck, we could probably even move that into the map for now. Do we want to put it down here? Do we want to make our map frame smaller? The answer is yes. The world is our oyster. You can see making a map, whoa, is pretty simple and pretty difficult at the same time. But for now, we're just going to put this together. You know what? We're also going to get rid of that. And bring our perspective backwoods camping up to the top. What else do we want in our map? Let's add a subtitle. In Rocky Mountain National Park. National Park. A locator map, so we know where we're zoomed in. Oh boy. So we can add another map frame. We can add another map frame. So to add another map frame, once again, we'd go to Insert. We choose Map Frame. We'll say default extent, and we can draw in, how about right here, because it's pretty open and bare. And it looks like we've got all of the UTM zone in our map. So how do we activate this one? How do we zoom into here? Right. We just right click and activate. And then we can use our scroll button to zoom in. But this is kind of ugly. So we have two options here. We can make another map, which I think is what we want to do, or we can try to get some symbology to where we want it. But the easiest thing would just be to make another map. So once again, we'll close this activation. And on our insert, we're going to say new map. Look at that. We've got our map. We've got our layout. Now we've got our map 1. And just for simplicity's sake today, we are going to, in our map tab, on the top, change our base map to light gray canvas. Because that gives us state outlines. What would you think would be a good, simple layer to add to this map to help people know where we are in our other map? Some sort of boundary. What could we use? Data that we have. Go to Map, Add Data. We've got our CLTL workshop from the folders that we've connected to. CLTL database. What boundary could we use? I wonder. How about our Rocky Mountain National Park boundary? We'll add that. It might actually already be. Not really. Okay. And let's make that hollow with a prominent gray boundary. That looks very simple, and it looks like something we could use in our layout to show where we are. So we go back to our layout. See, this is very ugly, so we're just going to delete it. So with our selection, we'll select that map frame and delete it. So now we can insert a map frame of map 1 and put that in there. Ooh. Then we'll activate it. Zoom in a bit. And then close our activation. So the next and mostly final step will be getting to know where in this inset map we are. To do that, with your map frame selected, you can insert, and this map frame, we will select this thing called extent indicator. And that extent indicator, we will select map frame. And you can see it drew a little box in there. And if we want that little box to be something other than gray, over here in our table of contents, map frame 1, extent indicators, we can select that extent of map frame, right click and select properties. Now we can change the symbol. I'm just going to make it red. And now it's red. All right. Is anyone completely lost? I know we just went through a lot of information. A lot of information. It would be good to watch these videos again, because there's more here than we can really cover well and understandably in this short amount of time. But you have now a functioning map, and your layout doesn't have to look like this. My layout probably wouldn't look exactly like this. Just start a YouTube channel. Oh, I'll leave that for Beth. Are there any questions? Is there anything? Right, see, she already has one. And it's pretty cool. There's a lot of tutorials. Does anyone have any questions on layouts or anything that you'd like to see in this layout? And you can unmute and just ask too. I'd love to hear someone's voice other than my own.
Now could be a good time to also think about how you need to share your data, how you need to share your results. So making a map layout like this is one way. We looked at making a web map the other day on Monday, and so that's more of an interactive thing. Sometimes the answer to your question is literally like a number, like what percentage of something is something. Sometimes you need a table. So you could take your data and export it as a table. You can make a chart or a graph, and then story maps. So think about how, or like what you might be doing with your data, and either ask it now or, ruminate over it over the next day or two. And then on Friday, we'll meet just for some follow-up discussion, kind of ad hoc type stuff. And we'll cover whatever else you want to cover. So we could demo story maps. I know that was a big question or, topic. Many of you were talking about surveys and having survey data. So we could go over that now and how you could, that's not really sharing your results, that's actually collecting new data, but who needs to learn what else, basically. Feel free to unmute, just talk.
Sorry, I don't have anything off the top of my head. My capstone's a bit of a mess, so I don't really know what I'm going to need to do yet. But this is really helpful, and this has really been eye-opening, especially to see how you highlighted these specific areas. It could be helpful for me in the future. So thank you. I don't want to sound too mute, but it's been helpful.
Okay. No, this is great. I think sometimes when you're getting started, you don't even know what to ask. So hopefully we showed you like a little bit of everything to get you thinking of what you could do and how you could use it. And Tyler was joking about the YouTube channel, but if you take a look at whatever slide, I think it's one of the last slides, slide 34, there are a couple of playlists out there. One of them is just from my own 322 class, which I'm going to be building on for the fall because I think I have to. But there's a couple other ones out there from this guy Jarlath and another class at University of Minnesota, and it's all just like literally just ArcGIS Pro how-to videos, just dozens of them in those two playlists. So there's a lot of resources and help available for you if you want to learn more.
And once we start working on our capstone, we can always contact the Centroid to get help, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you look at slide 34, the link is there, the email rather is there, and absolutely you can contact the Centroid, and we have help desk services. So if you're stuck on something, that is why we exist. We are here to help you guys out. So please make use of us. I know it's a little bit weird. being remote, but you'd be amazed at how much troubleshooting we can do through email and like screenshots and stuff, or screen share.
Perfect. Thank you.
Josh, do you want to hop back
Okay.
to the slides?
Sure.
Or just to show those last couple little ones.
Right. Okay. So if there are no other kind of questions for right now and what we covered today, for your homework for Friday, I challenge you to take the data that we analyzed today and turn it into a web map or a story map or a dashboard. And then on Friday, we can share those if you'd like, or if you make something you're proud of. And if not, you can just hide, or if you decide not to do it, you can hide it. But on Friday, we'll discuss story maps. We can go, again, as Beth said, we can go into any other questions you have, anything that you think of, just jot it down. And we will have a session on Friday to simply go over anything that we have not covered or anything that you would like to go further in depth with. So yeah, there's Beth's cute dog again.
My adorable dog.
Is
The next slide actually show that one. I just want to impress upon you, like, there is so much to GIS. We are barely scratching the surface. So you have to just keep playing with it. Someone asked that question before about how do you know what tool to use? It just takes time. Like, the more you work with it, the better you'll get at it. So we're just scratching the surface. And on your own, you'll have to kind of dig down a little bit and see what else you can make use of in geospatial science. There's a lot.
There is, and as you're doing this, just some of these resources. So there's, oh, thank you. We are always available through the Centroid. If you so choose, there are also some great online resources. Again, those videos from both Beth and Jarlath. But even here, I know I spend a lot of time on this GeoNet community. If there's ever, if you start digging into things and you just hit a roadblock and you can't figure out how something works, if you search for it in that GeoNet, it's kind of just a message board. Chances are someone else has had that problem and has asked the question, and it's a great place to get some answers. And then again, just the Esri documentation itself is usually pretty handy. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's all we had for today, but we can stick around. We're planning on going until 4:30 today, but we can stick around if you have specific questions or want to know a little more about something that maybe we'll talk about on Friday. We can give you a little push in the right direction. And then Friday we can wrap it up with whoever's able to make it. So yeah, with that, I'm gonna stop recording now. And